Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
Now, I mentioned a couple times in the show that I've done some planting this week. So I've been cleaning up my landscapes, pruning things back, getting some old native stuff. Some of them just out of there. Some of these oaks are just, oh my gosh, they need to be trimmed back. They're like a weed. So some of my pinyon pines needed some help, some fertilizing, taking care of, pampering them, getting the dead wood out. So I've opened up some areas. And then I'm seeing that I need a few extra plants. So I've added a couple Arizona Cypress and a Blue Atlas Cedar, which is the Arizona statehood tree down on the Prescott Courthouse. That's the original tree planted back over 100 years ago, the day of our founding, the state of Arizona. We, the citizens of Prescott, planted some ceremonial trees down there. Apropos, it's a beautiful area. It's the biggest trees on the front area where Bucky, the statue of Bucky O'Neill, that front statue, it's just to as you're looking at the front courthouse, it's just the left. That's the statehood tree. Plant one of those. And so with trees, this is a good time to put them in the ground. I had mentioned watering is a secret to healthy growth for next spring to keep them growing. So go ahead and plant. Just make sure you water them. You can't plant once and be done until you turn the irrigation back on in April. The plants are not going to thrive with that. They might live, but if you want to plant them and have them really really grow out next spring, this is a great time to plant as long as you water them. The other insider tip, it seems counterintuitive, but you really do need to stake trees in winter. I don't care if it's a deciduous plant or an evergreen plant, you need to stake trees. Now, deciduous, those things that lose their leaves, you wouldn't think you need them, but they're going to eat along and they're going to take off with new growth next spring. And then they start catching the wind and they start to lean on you. You really need to stake. With evergreens, especially those fast growing like Arizona Cypress, it's one of the fastest growing evergreen trees. It grows 20, 25 feet tall, 12 or more feet wide. It's this beautiful, thick, fast growing, luscious evergreen tree. Well, when you put them in the ground, they're a little skinnier. You wouldn't think you'd need it. They're pretty heavy. They're standing up on their own by themselves. But what happens is the late spring snow is so heavy that it loads up on those branches and then it just kind of flops over. And so you don't want that to happen. It doesn't break the trunk typically, but it can disrupt new root growth. The plants are still budding. They're still pushing new roots out. So that top growth, you're seeing the bud swell right now on the top growth of, let's say, your apples or your pears or your cypress, I noticed that the aspens, they're swelling. They're actually actively growing. Slow, but they're growing. The same thing happens with your roots. You don't want that root ball to shift and discourage it, break some of those, but just staking it. It's easier to stake now. Just tie it once at the top towards the middle, put a stake on either side of the root ball. Don't put a stake right next to the trunk. You want that tree to move, but not fall over. You want that tree to leaf out and be exposed to the wind, so become strong, but not lean to the northeast. So staking is critical, I think, for planting in the mountains where it's windy. For the mountains of Arizona, you need to stake trees, especially evergreens. I don't care what size. So my little tiny 5-gallon, I used a couple bamboo stakes. My big old 15-gallon Arizona Cypress, they were beautiful, icy blues. I put a lodge pole on either side, took one tie to the trunk, and then tied it off to these trunks. And I'll take that off next year. Probably this time next year, I'll take it off. But for now, it looks healthy. That's how you stake a tree in your backyard. All right, Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Until next week.
My living room feels so empty.
Now that the Christmas tree is gone, the house just seems so blah.
Brighten it up with a big, bold, beautiful plant from Waters Garden Center.
Fill that cavernous space with tall tropicals, colossal cactus, and sizable succulents that bring the great outdoors indoors.
Make a gorgeous green space you can enjoy all year, not just for a season.
Unique, exclusive, one-of-a-kind houseplants found only at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com.